Alright, so a while back I did a video titled 10 Reasons Not to Move to Minnesota, and to date it's still one of my best performing videos on the channel. You guys are toxic. Now the reason why I wanted to do that one is just because I wanted to make it very clear that Minnesota, just like everywhere else, does have its downsides, and I want people to know that regardless of where you decide to move, that there is no perfect place. But in this video, I want to do the reverse and do my top 10 reasons on why I personally don't ever see myself leaving. Oh, and if you're wondering why I'm wearing these shades right now, no reason at all. Stay tuned. What's going on, guys? BrandonArchie here, aka your favorite Minnesota realtor, and today I'm going to be giving you guys my top 10 reasons on why I'm never leaving Minnesota. And yes, that's even despite the cold winters. But as always, before we get started, if you are thinking about moving to Minnesota, whether it be now or next year, then shoot me an email at BrandonArchie@kw.com so that we can set up some time to talk about what it is that you're looking for and put together a plan to make your move as smooth as possible. Oh, and please consider subscribing. Now, let's get started. Okay, so again, these are just my personal reasons on why I'm never leaving, and this is not going to be a pros of Minnesota video because I've already done that, which you can watch right here. Okay, so starting off with number one on my list of why I'm never leaving is actually the winter. Yeah, I know, I'm coming right out the gate swinging. Now, don't get me wrong, I hate the cold just like everybody else, but I can actually deal with the winter here for two reasons. Now, the first reason is because unlike states like Florida, Texas, or Arizona, I don't have to worry about alligators in my swimming pool, accidentally stepping on a scorpion while I'm hiking, or a snake eating my dog. Now, Minnesota doesn't have the climate for any of these kinds of animals to survive, and I'm very thankful for that because if I ever, and I mean ever, walked outside to take a dog out and saw a huge lizard of any kind, I'm out. I'm out. I can't. And the other reason why I can deal with the winters here is because it makes me appreciate other places when I go on vacation. For instance, I went to Asheville, North Carolina this past October for the first time ever, and now while it wasn't technically winter here just yet, the weather here was on the colder side. But in Asheville, it was 75 degrees and sunny the entire time we were there, fall colors all throughout the mountainside. Now, in my opinion, I feel like if I were to see things like that all the time, or have nice sunny weather like San Diego all year round, that I would just get used to it and take it for granted. After going through a winter here, pretty much anywhere can be considered a vacation. Which perfectly segues me right into number two on the list, and that is the fact that traveling from Minnesota is super easy because MSP is a major hub that has hundreds of flights going to any and all of your major terminals across the US and even abroad, and all without being super expensive. Now, I personally don't really travel as much as I should, but I've been to a few different states on all sides of the United States, and I don't think I've ever paid more than $350 after tax for a plane ticket. On top of that, because we have such a big hub, things tend to move pretty quickly when you're there. Now, again, this may just be because I wouldn't consider myself a heavy traveler, but I've never been worried about it being too busy and missing my flight, and it's good to know that if I do get sick of the winter here and need to go somewhere else for a while, that I can do so with ease. Now, number three on the list is the economy. Now, I can say with confidence that between the number of jobs we have, how well maintained everything is here, and of course the housing market, that I feel secure with Minnesota being a great place to not only raise a family, but also a place where you can build something. Now, while I have mentioned in other videos that Minnesota may not be the best state to retire in because of the taxes, there's no question that our economy is strong. And that's obvious seeing how we consistently have the lowest unemployment rate in the country year after year. Now, as for if I'll still be here when I retire, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I mean, I'm only 35, so it'll be a while. Unless, of course, you guys make me YouTube famous by liking this video, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Now, number four on the list is the fact that in my older age, as my interests have changed from my young and wild days where all I wanted to do was party every weekend, I'm starting to realize that Minnesota actually has a lot to offer. And in all honesty, since I started this channel a little over a year ago, I'm realizing how much about Minnesota I actually don't know. Which is pretty fun because whenever I sit down to make these videos, I almost always find something out that I didn't know. You see, when people think about Minnesota, they think of, oh, it's boring and cold. Why would I want to go there? And I honestly thought the same thing growing up. But when you find out things like Minneapolis having one of the top ranked food scenes in the country, having the #1 state fair, having miles and miles of mountain biking trails of all difficulty levels, which is something that I just got into, you realize that Minnesota is actually a pretty interesting place to be, whether you're like me and you're adventurous, or if you're also like me and like to eat. Actually, I think I'm going to put together a best restaurants in the Twin Cities video. If you guys would find something like that interesting, leave a comment below and I'll put that together. Alright, so number 5 on my list is that we have 4 seasons. Now, I'm not sure if it's because my body's used to the cold weather here or what, but my body runs hot all the time. And I sweat very easily and get annoyed from being outside for long periods of time in the sun, because once I start sweating, it will not stop. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm outside all day every day in the summer playing golf, riding my bike, eating out on patios, and everything else. But my personal favorite weather here is fall. Now, the reason being is because I prefer 70 degrees or so, that weather when I can wear shorts or pants and still be comfortable, and it gives me more versatility on what I can wear and I don't have to worry about taking 3 showers a day from sweating too much. On top of that, when I think of holidays like Christmas, I think of snow. And ironically, this past Christmas, we actually didn't have any snow at all, and it didn't really feel like the holidays to me. But again, that's just my personal opinion. Overall, it's good to experience so many different seasons because there are so many different activities here throughout the year that you can go along with the seasons. Moving along, number 6 is the fact that while Minneapolis is a major metropolitan area, it isn't overly crowded like a Chicago or Los Angeles or New York, nor do we have a bunch of people flocking here like Scottsdale or Dallas. Now, this makes it so there are plenty of things to do and places to go without the huge crowds and ridiculously long commute times. I feel like it's the perfect balance. Not only that, but the way that everything is laid out here in the Twin Cities, you're really never anywhere farther than 30 minutes away from Minneapolis. Now, number 7 is that Minnesota is one of the best places to live if you have or want an active lifestyle. And if you're like me and can't sit still, I'm like a puppy, and if I get bored, I get destructive. And I mean like hop online and spend $1,000 on a new camera lens just to get a dopamine hit kind of destructive. Now, we have miles and miles of walking trails, a park at almost every corner, and all kinds of other outdoor activities you can do throughout the year. And Minnesota's calling card is actually the amount of things that we have to do outside. Now, I love the fact that I can drive less than 10 minutes in any direction and find a golf course or a park to play basketball at. And these are the kind of things that you don't really think about until you visit another place that doesn't have these things. Now, Minnesotans in general are super active. Even in the winter, you'll see people walking and jogging down the street every day, and it really makes you want to do the same thing. And I mean staying fit, not jogging outside in the winter. That's crazy. Now, number 8 on the list is the food. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Minnesota has better food than everywhere else because, quite frankly, we don't. But where we do excel at is that we have a great variety of different foods and fit pretty much any mood. From Asian to bar foods to fusions, we have a lot of different unique things to try, which is why I would say that Minnesota doesn't have any one particular food that we're great at, other than tater tot hot dish and maybe the Juicy Lucy. But I would say that our strong suit is blending things together and making something completely new out of it. I mean, there's a reason why we have the #1 state fair. The whole thing is basically a bunch of crazy concoctions of things blended together that when you hear them, your first reaction is,
what? Bro, what are you talking about?
But then when you actually try it, you realize that your taste buds are just inexperienced to the endless possibilities of what great food actually is. Can you tell I'm passionate about food? Now, next up is number 9, and you may think this is kind of crazy for this one, but this is something that I actually think about from time to time. Now, Minnesota is relatively safe, and I'm not talking about daily crime and all that. I'm talking about the big stuff, like war. Now, this may or may not even be true, but this is at least how I framed it in my head, so just let me have it. But if an enemy country, God forbid, were to ever attack the United States, they would more than likely go for a state on the coast where all our major shipping ports are, or a highly populated city like New York or somewhere important. Why in the world would anybody attack Minnesota? Now, watch. Since I said this, I guarantee there's going to be somebody in the comments giving me 100 reasons why somebody would want to attack Minnesota. Bring it on. And finally, number 10. Now, some of you may have guessed what this one is, or maybe not, but it's more than likely the same reason why you're thinking of moving here or related to it in some form or fashion, and that is family. I was born and raised in Minnesota, and my entire family is here, from aunts, uncles, cousins, my son, etc. And I just really can't imagine leaving another state and leaving my entire family behind. And I feel like a lot of you that I've talked to lately are the same way. Over the last few months, I've talked to people who are moving back here to be closer to family, and I've helped people that have moved here and brought their entire families with them. As I said in the beginning of this video, every state is going to have its pros and cons, but regardless of where you're moving to and why you're moving, in my opinion, family is the reason that doesn't need any further explanation. Not to make the ending of this video sound like a Fast and the Furious movie.